Good day, everyone. This is Teacher Kaisel, and today we are going to explore something that is always with us, but we often don't notice it. It is not a gadget or a tool, it is our own thinking. Our topic for today is metacognition, which is basically thinking about our thinking. It may sound a bit complex at first, but don't worry, we'll break it down together with simple explanations and relatable examples. Now, at the end of these presentations, learners will be able to identify and explain metacognitions, its component and teaching strategies, appreciate the value of self-awareness and reflections in improving performance, apply and explore metacognitive strategies that build metacognitive skills. Now, let's begin with the big idea. What is metacognition? Metacognition, as what I've said earlier, it is about thinking about thinking. It means being aware of how we think and learning to manage it. Imagine your brain as a machine. You're not just using it, you're also watching how it works, fixing it when it fails, and improve it each time. Now that we know what it is, let's dive into its two key components: knowledge and strategy. What is metacognitive knowledge? This is all about knowing yourself as a learner. What strategies works for you, and when do you usually get confused, and what helps you focus. This includes three types of knowledge: declarative, procedural, and conditional knowledge. And to make it simple, let's use a single example: BMI or body mass index. In declarative knowledge, this is knowing what BMI is. For instance, knowing that BMI is a measure used to estimate body fat based on a person's height and weight. It's like declaring a fact that BMI is indeed to measure and used to estimate body fat. While in procedural knowledge, as what the word says, procedural or procedure, it is knowing how to calculate it, like knowing the formula. BMI is equals to weight, kilogram divided by the height or meter per squared, and how to actually plug in the numbers. While in conditional knowledge, this is knowing when and why to use BMI. For example, you'd use BMI when doing a health assessment, but you also understand that it's not always accurate for athletes or people with high muscle mass, so you consider its limitations. Transitioning from knowing how we think, let's now explore how we control and manage our thinking. The metacognitive regulations and control. This is the part where we take charge of our learning. Think of yourself as the driver of your brain. You decide the route, watch for signs, and change directions if needed. And metacognitive regulations, there are three main processes, which are planning, monitoring, and evaluating. In planning, this is where you set goals and choosing strategies before starting a task. Monitoring, keeping track of your understanding while learning. And evaluating, reflecting on your performance after the task and adjusting next time. Now, the example of these three is handling an event, for example. When you're handling an event, before you start an event, you need to set goals. Like plan first before you do the event. Like where should we hold the event, what should happen to the flow, etc., etc. And monitoring, this happens during the event. It's like checking if everything is under control, everything is nice and order. While evaluating, this happens after the event. This is where you reflect if your event was a success or it was not a success. And this is where you're gonna know what should you do next if it was not a success. Now that we understand how learners can manage their own thinking, the next step is knowing how we can support and develop these skills in the classroom. That's where metacognitive teaching strategies came in, tools and techniques that guide learners to plan, monitor, and evaluate their learning more effectively. As teachers or future educators, it's important that we don't just teach what to learn, but how to learn. These strategies make students more aware of their thought processes and help them take ownership of their learning. Let's take a look at some effective metacognitive teaching strategies. Number 1. Think aloud. Here, learners say their thoughts while doing a task. It makes thinking visible and easier to correct. For example, while solving a math word problem, a student says aloud, "First, I'll underline the key words. Wait, do I need to multiply or divide?" This helps them spot the confusion early on. Now, the second strategy is journalizing. Learners write about their thought process and reflect on what they could do better. Example, after a quiz, Paul writes, "I chose option B because I thought colonialism ended in the 1800s, but I misread the timeline. Next time, I'll double check the century." He wrote and reflect what he did. Now, the third strategy, called error analysis. This strategy focuses on giving and receiving feedback. Learners reflect on their correct and incorrect answers, helping them understand why they made mistakes and how to improve. For example, in math class, Trina shares her wrong answer and receives feedback from her teacher and classmates. She realized she forgot to apply the order of operations. Others also share their mistakes, and together, the class learns how to avoid similar error next time. Now, the fourth strategy is called wrapper. These are small reflection tasks before, during, and after learning. Example, before reading, students guess the story theme. During reading, they check their guesses. Afterward, they reflect on what they misunderstood from their assumptions. Now, the fifth strategy is called peer mentoring. Students learn strategies by observing their more experienced classmates. For example, Julian has trouble writing an essay. Anna shows him her method, starting with a thesis and making bullet points. Julian then follows her lead and slowly improves. As future learners and educators, metacognition empower us not just to learn but to learn better. By being aware of how we think, by planning our moves, checking our progress, and reflecting on results, we take full control of our growth. So let's not just teach content, let's also teach students how to think about their thinking. Thank you, and may you all continue to grow not only smarter but wiser in how you learn. This is Teacher Kaiza Limano, signing off.